Parshas Chayei Sara discusses the burial of Sara Imenu.
Is it true that Adam Rishon was arguing with Abraham about burying anyone there?
He wanted to be there by himself?
Yeah, something like that.
Abraham, you mean like in Shemayim? Did they live at the same time? I don't think they did.
No, but when Abraham's time, Adam came to him.
Oh yeah?
You didn't hear that?
Well, hearing it now.
He's kind of jealous.
Okay.
Who else can be here?
Okay, so anyway, thanks for that.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, Yigal lan Taimeh. Does anyone recognize these opening words of the mimer? Yigal lan Taimeh. Where does it come from, David? Everyone would take out a siddur, maybe, or someone take out a siddur. Yeah. Go to the Shabbos Arizal song on Shabbos day. So this is something also interesting, that the Alter Rebbe didn't put any zmiros into the siddur. If you notice zmiros, songs, a lot of siddurim have Shabbos zmiros printed in them. So the Alter Rebbe didn't put them in, and the idea was because you can't. A siddur means everything is organized in Masuda. You do this, then you do this, then you do this. Shachris, Mincha, Mariv. So he says Shabbos songs. It cannot come out like you're reading a script.
Right.
It's basically Shabbos zmiros have to just like come spontaneously from the soul, basically. So they're not. So we say, how can I put them in the siddurs? They're not songs in the siddur, bar except from 3, which is all written by the Arizal, the text of them, and all of them have a special tune that the Alter Rebbe himself wrote. All 3 of them. B'nei Heichalah, we sang so lovely last night together, right? But there's 3 songs. One is a song that the Arizal wrote for each of the 3 meals, right? You're familiar with these songs? They're in the siddur. They're the only songs that we have in the siddur, and there's a special tune for them. Anyway, so Levi, if you could look at the one for the day, you'll find these words in there. A few lines down. I don't know if everyone wants to have a siddur, so you can see what we're talking about. It would be nice, I think. Want to grab a few siddurim? So here, 4th verse. Yigal lan Taimeh. Let's just get siddurim real quick.
What the song of the sea? The song of the sea. Is that a song?
That's not a song, man. It's a song, but it's not a song. It's not like a tune you're going to sing on Shabbos. You know what I mean? It's part of the Torah. Song of the Sea.
Carnival people sing that song at the sea.
Well, they just love singing, man. That's their thing.
They actually sing it on Shabbos. Yeah,
I read that yesterday.
Okay, so if you turn, to page, what?
250.
250. Have a look there. We'll just translate the first line. So he says, Yigal lan Taimeh. This is speaking about the Kabbalistic nature of the Shabbos. What is Yigal lan Taimeh? He will reveal to us the secrets, the reasons. The Visrei Sar Name. What does that mean? Visrei Sar Name. Tresar is 12. Yeah, in Aramaic. Name is breads. So he's going to reveal to us the secret of the 12 breads. Di'inun as bishmei, that they are his name.
Wow.
Right? The 12 breads are none other than his name. Right? Kafila uklisha. And kafila uklisha means doubled and singular. In other words, the doubled nature of his name and the singular nature of his name. All right there, you say it every Shabbos, you don't even realize. This is mamish Kabbalistic. Well, that's what we're going to find out in the Maimer, right? So, but all I'm saying is that this is what the Maimer is based on. Now, why all of a sudden we're in Parshas Chayei Sara we're talking about this? Because, as you'll see, we can start the Maimer. What's that?
I didn't realize this.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, yeah.
So he says, okay, we'll start the mimer. Yegalilan Taime, he will reveal to us the secret of his 12 names, 12 breads. Hine miloi hei, hi behei acheres. The miloi of a hay is with another hay. What's a miloi?
The word?
Anybody?
When you fill it out and write it out, as in like, instead of being the first letter, you write it out like you'd have in English.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
So, for example, he's saying that when a miloi means a filling in. So, for example, the miloi of an aleph is lamed pei. You get it? The miloi of a base is yud tav. So, the miloi of a hay is
Hey, Yud.
Hey,
Or a few.
hey.
it's a few things, frankly, and that's one of the secrets of it all. Is that there's a few ways to spell hay, and because there's a few ways to spell hay and vav for that matter, you wind up with several different spellings of Hashem's name, and not spellings only, but also gematrias, right? So what are there's 12 different ways to do it, but what are the 4 classic ways that we spell, that the gematria of Hashem comes out differently based on how you make the miloi, how you make the letters flush out? What are they called? 4 different numbers, basically, that we actually have names attached to them. We've talked about it before. Anybody?
8.
You understand the question? Mm-hmm. Based on the fact that you could spell hey yud, hey aleph, or hey. Vav, you can do the same thing. Vav yud, vav aleph, vav. So therefore, yud k vav k winds up with different letters inside of this just simple letters yud k vav k. Yud is always the same. It's spelled yud vav daled, right? That's the miloi of the yud is vav daled, never changes. But hey, vav, and hey, they do change. So therefore, if you manipulate them, you come up with essentially 12, or in total, different combinations. But we always talk about 4 main ones. No idea?
Number 8?
Yeah, 4 names of Hashem.
What are they?
54,
Oh,
72,
is it-
64, and
26.
Are you looking for numbers or looking for names?
They're the same. They're
Numbers.
numbers
82.
which spell
Oh,
names.
really?
Okay, you got one. 72.
Oh.
Which one is that? What does it spell, 72?
Yud Hey Vav.
In Hebrew?
We know that.
In Hebrew, it's 70 is... What letter is 70? Ayin base. Right? Av. Shem Av.
Oh, that's cool.
What's the next letter down? The next number down?
45?
45 is the one after that. Very good. What does that spell?
Ma.
Ma. Right? So you have Av, Sag, Ma, and Ban. These are the 4 levels. We've done this before. We've looked at the math and everything. But Av, Sag is Samech Gimel equals 63. Right? Ma, Mem, He equals 45. And Ban is what? Base Nun, 52. So these are the 4 gematrias that you come up with when you tinker with the spelling of the of the miloi of the letters. Ariel, you want a place by the table?
Yeah.
Come, you'll join us. We can make room for the man, right? There's a place right there, no?
What are the numbers?
So 72, 63, 45, and 52.
You were close, Levi.
Now, in a general sense, whenever we have sort of 4 things, we're going to sort them out through the Seder Yishtalshlus. What do these things refer to, of
I'm
course?
sorry, 72,
4 levels,
63.
Torah.
45 and 52. So there's 4 of these names. As I said, you can do more combinations. I think officially there's 12. I've never seen it in Hasidus actually, brought. But in the Kisvei Arizal and Kabbalah, he talks about all 12. He goes into all these different things much more intensely. In other words, almost the entirety of the Kisvei Arizal is basically dissecting and inspecting these combinations of names. Many things come out of this, but Hasidus sort of, in a certain sense, simplifies it and brings it down to 4 basic combinations. Because why 4? What are the 4 basic stations that we always talk about? The 4 worlds, or the 4 letters of Hashem's name, or the 4 levels, right? Chochmah, Bina, Midos, and Malchus, right?
Yeah.
So that's what these refer to. So Av, Ayin base refers to what? The highest one? Chochmah. Then Sag is Bina, Ma, is Midos and Ban is Malchus. Very good. Now, that was an introduction. Let's do one of the calculations and you'll see how it comes out. So look at the first line again. Hine miloi hey hi behei acheres. The filling in of a hey is with another hey. Now that's only true in one of the combinations. And that's the combination called Ban. 52, the one that refers to Malchus. What element, by the way, is Malchus associated with? Of the four elements? Earth, right? And Hebron, the city of Earth. So we're going to see something pretty cool over here. That when you make the gematria of Yud Kei Vav Kei specifically, and you want it to come out to 52, Ban, so the way you do that is by doubling the Hey, right? And so, in other words, not only doubling the Hey, but you double all the letters. In other words, like a Vav also can be a Vav, can be with a Miloi, right? What's the Miloi of the Vav? So it's Vav Vav, right? That's how you spell Vav. So let's do the calculation real quick, see if we can come up to it. Start with the Yud is 20, right? Yud is a Yud, Vav, Dalet, so it's Vav and Dalet, 6 and 4 is 10. We're spelling out. Don't worry, it's not that complicated, right? So the letter Yud equals 20 in Gematria. Do you understand why? A regular Yud is 10, right? But since we're spelling it, what comes out of it is a Yud, Vav, Dalid. The Vav is 6, the Dalid is 4, plus the 10, which is the Yud, you have 20 right there. Yeah? Then you're going to go to Hey. We just got through saying, how do you make a Hey? You're doubling the Hey. So we're using the specific Miloi of the Hey, which is another Hey. So you got Hey, Hey, that's another 10. Right? So 20, 30. Then you got, of course, the Vav. Also, we're going to double up. What do we get when we double up the Vav? Vav, Vav. 12. 42. Right? And then a Hey at the end is what?
10.
Another 10. 52. What does 52 spell in Gematria? Ban. That's the name of Havaya in Malchus. Okay? And how do you make it? By doubling up. And this is the connection of this thing to the Maimer and the Parsha that we're in. Why? Because we're going to talk about the Maras HaMachpelah. What's the Maras HaMachpelah? The doubled cave. And the doubled cave is like a symbolic thing. Why is it called double? There's a few reasons. Because there's a bunch of pairs in there. Like you mentioned in the beginning of class. Adam and Chava, Avram and Sarah, Yaakov and Leah, Yitzchak and Rivka. Right? A little out of order, but you get the point. And the idea is that they're doubled. Also, it's called a doubled cave because there's actually a double. It's actually a double cave. If you go in there, they'll show you. I mean, you can't go in there, but they show you the diagrams. It's a double cave. So it's a whole Indian of the Maras HaMachpelah. Why is it a doubled? And the name of it is doubled. Machpelah means kaful. It means to double. The cave of doubles, because it represents quite literally the letter Hey of Hashem's name. In other words, the name Ban, as it were, it manifested on the earth. In other words, like the four holy cities, each one of them is associated with a different godly revelation. And we said that the Malchus is associated with earth, and the city of Hebron is the Indian of earth, basically. So why is it like that? Because in that cave, it's not a cave. It's basically it's God's name in that cave. It's a serious piece of it's a portal.
You can never go in
What does
there.
bond mean? Bond actually.
The word actual ban comes to ben. It basically means like a son, but it also has the gematria exactly of behema, animal. Whereas the one right above it, ma, 45, has the gematria of Adam. So definitely it indicates to you a little bit of the synchronicity between their levels. One name is like man, which is Za, which is the Midos. Above Malchus is called the man sitting on the chariot, so to speak. The chariot is driven by animals. Malchus is Ban, the animalistic sort of gross part of the physical world. You wanted to ask something for a while now.
It's good. I understand Hey Hey is like doubling up, but
And Vav Vav is also doubling.
Vav Vav
The whole Indian of Shem Ban is doubling.
right, but for the other ones it's not really doubling up, it's more like spelling out. Right?
Wait, the other ones? What do you mean
Filling
the other
in,
ones?
filling in.
What do you mean? Yud.
Yud is like spelling out. It seems like a proper description.
Yeah, but the thing is that when we talk about Av, Sag, Ma, and Ban, the difference between why do you get different numbers when you calculate basically just Yud Kei Vav Kei? Because they're all just Yud Kei Vav Kei, right? 26, but you're adding in different letters in the middle of each letter,
Double helix.
right? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's you could spell Hey either Hey Hey or you could spell it Hey Yud. right? There's a way of spelling hey yud.
Okay.
So that's not called doubling up.
Right.
Because it's two different letters, right?
Right, yeah.
There's this way of spelling it hey aleph. That's also not called doubling it up. You could also spell it vav aleph vav,
Right.
which is not a double up. But when you double up, in other words, when you specifically use all the different options that you have for a miloi, you only just repeat the letter that you had before, which is hey vav vav hey. It's the only time you do that. It comes out to ban. It comes out to 52.
That is
That's the doubled name, right? That's the name when you double. And that's why it's called Maras Machpelah, because it's called the cave of doubling, because it's basically the name of Ban in the world.
Okay.
It's an amazing thing. This week, by the way, is a big Indian to go there because it's mentioned in the
Really?
in the Torah for the first time,
This
Maras
week?
Machpelah. So I think they open up. I don't know in today's wild and crazy world. I'm not sure what's going on, but
We gotta
there's
take
trips
Joe-
to Hebron this week, basically.
I'm going. I'm going. I'm going. We need.
Sorry?
We need to take Joseph's bones back.
It's Sarah's Yurtzeit?
Joseph? We need to go get that bones back. Let's get
I'm all
Joseph's
for
bones
it.
back also.
I don't think I can join you because I got to get ready to go on Tuesday. But you guys
You could.
have us in mind.
Rabbi, can have him go?
Can what?
Can have him go?
To the Maras Machpelah?
Can we go in the cave?
I believe so, because basically it's not even really. First of all, there are only tzaddikim in there, and second of all, I don't think there's anyone else in there, and it's not even really on the kever. It's like a big giant building, like.
So it's not built over the vault?
Huh?
It's not built over the.
I don't think so. I think not. I don't think it's like right like that. And anyway, it's like can you? It's like
It is. There's
Going.
a tunnel that goes directly.
Yeah, that's
no, I know that, but you're thinking that above it's. I'm not sure about that.
No, it is. You can see the actual opening. There's like one place where you can. There's an opening in the cave where it's stuck where you
Yeah.
go down. Actually, it's locked up in it. There's a story behind that.
It's a crazy
It's
story.
just deep. It's not like anywhere else.
Okay, I'm not sure.
Oh, what's the question? Kohanim?
Yeah.
That is a good question.
All right.
So you're saying the cameras are not directly?
I didn't think they were. I think someone told me that, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Okay.
I think we should do that. Why not?
I'm going.
All the Rabbanim are going to be away this week.
Maybe I'll be there.
Stuff.
I'm going.
We
All
might as
right.
do
Well,
that.
it's definitely a move. If you want, we can organize with Danny Cohen. There's been some heavy-duty violence to Hebron of late.
So what?
We have God on our side.
Anyway.
We have God on our side.
All right, now that's not going to be sanctioned by the yeshiva that trip, but you have my blessing.
You're gonna have to
Anyway.
sign these liability forms.
Yeah, you have to sign some forms on that one. Anyway, no, we're go Hebron. Anyway, so we're going on. Hine miloi hey hey acheres. So the filling in of the hay is with another hay. The hibachinas kefila, and that's what's called kefila. We just read in the Psalm of the Arizal, right? Yigal lantam devistre sarname dinarat bishmei. Reveal the secret to the 12 breads because they are his name. Kefila uklisha. We said doubled and the singular form. So kefila, we now know what that means. It means the doubled form of Hashem is when you double up. Maras Machpelah comes the same word, kefila, kpela, and that's a little bit of the secret already of what the Arizal is talking about. Kanod b'inyan Maras Machpelah, as it's known from the concept of Maras Machpelah, shehi hey acharon and the shem ban. As it's known that the Maras Machpelah is or represents or both the final hey of the shem ban. Right? In other words, the shem the final hay of Hashem's name, and in particular he wants to say it's not just that the Yud Kei Vav Kei and the final hay itself is the Shem Ban, but in the Shem Ban itself there's basically you're spelling out Yud Kei Vav Kei in the Shem Ban, right? And that the final hay of Yud Kei Vav Kei in the Shem Ban is hey hey. So he says particularly that's what it is exactly. Like the Maras Machpelah is not just the Shem Ban in general, it's the final hey of the Shem Ban, which is hey hey. You got that?
Yeah.
That's what it is. By Inyan,
For us.
what's that?
It's a high level for us.
It's a high level for anybody. Va'inyan yuvan behektiv. So he says to understand this, we're going to have to understand something else first. Lahavin inyan ha'achila. First we have to understand eating. Yeah, let's understand eating. Ki hine ikra achila, the main point of eating, lios ki min ha'machol nase chelev v'dam. The point of eating is that because from the food, it becomes fat and blood in your body. V'adam hu ha'nefesh. And the blood is the soul. So basically you're eating in order to create a kli for your soul to dwell in your body. If you run out of blood, or if your blood doesn't have what it needs, then the soul can't keep cycling through it. So you're creating new blood so that your soul can stay in your body. V'chayos ha'adam, right? Because the hadam hi nefesh v'chayos ha'adam. It's the life of a person. Shemekabel ha'kaved hadam min ha'maichel. So what's the exact process? Where's the Eli, our process man?
Processing.
He's processing. I hope he's not eating too much lettuce. Could hurt him. Anyway, also
Let us continue.
let us continue. So he receives.
Now for the news.
I love that laugh. Okay. Anyway, shemakabel hakaved. What's the kaved? Is the liver. Liver's big. It says there's 3 kings in the body, and believe it or not, the liver is one of them. Why are they called kings? Because what are the 3 of them? Moach, Lev, Kaved. What's the Rosh Tevos of them? What do they spell? Acronym? Melech. Right? So they're the 3 kings of the body. They rule the body.
What are the heart?
The mind, the heart, and the liver of all things. God bless the liver.
The liver cleans your blood.
Kidneys are big, but they're not the king.
He's probably a general.
I thought he's a queen.
He's a general.
The kidneys are the advisors. Yes, they're called the advisors.
Does the liver clean the blood?
Klayos hayoetzet, right? It's the livers are called the advisors of a person. It says, how did Avram learn Torah? His kidneys taught him. His kidneys taught him Torah. Your kidneys can teach you also if you listen to them.
Are you allowed to give away a kidney? Like, halachically speaking?
That's totally off topic.
I know, I'm sorry. Okay. That's too off topic. You're right.
Listen, to save a life, you can do a lot of things. So,
We love you.
okay, so what's the process of eating? You're trying to make fats and bloods. The blood is your life. So what happens is shemakabel hakaved hadam. The liver is so important because it's where the blood is received. Right? When everything gets turned into blood, basically it goes to the liver to clean it out, like stage 1 of basically processing your blood. Mekabel hakaved hadam min ha'maichel. It actually turns food into blood, basically. V'sholeach lelev v'lamoach, and then it sends it to the heart and to the mind. And this is it's basically the beginning of the receiver of transforming food into like life force. Starts with the liver.
Wow.
The tlash shlitin inun ba'alma. This is what I was just referring to. There's 3 rulers. Inun ba'alma there are in the world. There's 3 rules in the world. Kavda v'liba v'mocha. The liver, the heart, and the mind. These are the rulers of the world. Your world. Now through this, by the way, I forgot to mention just the simplest meaning of that the 12 breads in the Beis HaMikdash are Hashem's name. We sort of passed over that. We got excited about the Shem Ban. But the 12 breads, in a certain sense, represent, as I said before, the 12 different combinations that you can make of Gematria by spelling his name differently. So these 12 breads are his name. That's what it says. I'm going to reveal to you the secret of the 12 breads that are his name. So suddenly these 12 breads are his name. Why is the 12 his name? So there's 12 different ways you can sort of make Gematria out of his name. And on a more simple and straightforward shot, you can the word Yud Kei Vav Kei combines into 12 different orders, right? In other words, if you just take, without getting into Gematrias, the Gematria of all of them is 26, but you could put the letters Yud Kei Vav Kei in maximum possible order. You know what I'm talking about? Switching the orders, you come up with 12 different ways of spelling Yud Kei Vav Kei. So that's also, we see that the number 12 is associated with Hashem's name. So these 12, now the question is, why are they called breads, right? Why is Hashem's, you know what the 12 breads are in the Beis HaMikdash? Basically, once a week they would bake 12 breads and like sort of serve them to God, as it were.
Oh, there's 12 tribes?
Bread's a staff of life.
Okay, but it's interesting that God's name is sort of brought into on the shulchan of in the Beis Hamikdash. They brought the 12 breads. They were called lechem apanim, special breads that only Kohanim could cook and so forth, and they would stay fresh a whole week. It was a whole miracle going on with these breads, and then the Kohanim would eat them. But the idea is that why is God's name associated with the bread, with the food? That's why we start talking about conversation about food all of a sudden. And of course, we're singing this hymn of the Arizal like in the middle of a meal, right? So the whole thing is like, what's the association with God's name to these breads? And that's why all of a sudden there's a discussion of food. And what is food? Okay, so now there's
what's liver? What's it in Hebrew?
kaved. It's heavy.
Wait, what is the talis?
Tlas is 3.
Oh, tlas.
Except you can replace the taf with the shin, right, in Aramaic.
That's the most difficult part to transfer him to king, probably.
To make him the king?
Because it's covered.
What?
What's the significance?
Say that again?
And what's
Shliti means rulers.
Oh.
Inun, there are Baalma in the world. Okay, so through
What did
this,
Levi just say?
Al Yedei Zeh, do you have a copy or a book? Here's a sefer.
Did Levi just say something?
It's real Kodesh.
I heard it.
Al Yedei Zeh, Misale HaMeichel, that through this process of going from the 3 kings, the liver and so forth, the heart and the mind, the food becomes elevated. Shenasir menu leiv v'moach ha'adam. It becomes literally the heart and the mind of a person. So it's an amazing process. The liver is quite an intermediary there, because what it winds up doing is it takes like sort of the blood out of the food, if you will, transfers the food into blood. But what happens next is that it sends it to the heart and the mind, and like this pickle that you just ate becomes the intellect of a man, literally, right? Because it becomes part of your brain. It's your brain is a physical entity thinking physical thoughts, as it were. And where does it all come from? From the food that you ate. So there's like a tremendous spiritual process that goes on in eating. It's a serious thing that you're basically taking entities outside of you in the world and transforming them into a human being, and not only that, but into emotions and into intellect. But it is crazy.
That's not crazy.
That's why they say, for example, that the shulchan of a person is like the
Table.
mizbeach, like an altar. Because what's the altar all about? You're taking physical objects from all the different species. Salt is the stand-in for the inanimate species. It has to al tashviz melech. You're not allowed to take. Every single sacrifice has to have salt because it represents the earth element. And then you have to have plants, whether it's the wine or the mincha offering, and the animal. So you have all the 3 lower species inside of every single sacrifice, and you're turning them into God, basically. In this case, you're not just turning them into intellect, you're turning them into God. You turn them into a mitzvah. So the whole idea of a carbon is to elevate the lower 3 levels of life, and that's what happens every single time you eat. That's why it says your shulchan is like the mizbeach. So he says, by eating the food, your heart and mind get strong for the service of God. That in your heart, when you're going to think properly about Chassidus and get yourself all excited, like a flaming fire. How does it happen? If you don't eat for 3 days, you're not going to be flaming fire for God either. You're going to just be lying in bed. So the whole idea that you can sort of get passionately excited, certainly it comes from what you're thinking about, but more than anything, it comes from the fact that you have energy in your body, and that energy is derived from the food. Shebelibo, and it was Boros Hashem Shebelibo. You're serving Hashem with your heart. Bislavus, with like a fieriness. Kerish Pe'esh, like a burning fire.
Wow, burning desire.
Shenaseh Bekoach Achila, and that happens with the power of eating. Shebelo Achila Haimis Chalesh. If you didn't eat, you would be weak. You become weakened, and you couldn't serve Hashem with a burning passion. So you see that mamash is the food ultimately, which is the energy behind the passion. V'gam mocho naseh chazak, And not only that, but your mind becomes strong. Lisbonin begadlus Hashem. So you can think properly about the greatness of Hashem. If you're weak and you can't think, you ever gone for a few days after Yom Kippur, it's hard to get your act together there in thinking. V'zeu inyan birur shemina meichel nase Adam. And this is basically the great refinement that from the food becomes a man. Right? There's no greater elevation that you can have. In general, it says in Svarim, like basically Reishis Chochmah and sort of the Chakira, it talks about how the purpose of everything is to elevate, that Hashem created everything in such a way that the mineral kingdom is just waiting to grow. So basically, if you plant a seed, the earth is happy to become a plant. And the actual matter of the earth becomes a piece of grass or a tree. That's what the matter is made from. So you transformed physical matter into a growing level. And the growing level is just waiting for an animal to come around and eat it, basically. And when it does, you take that matter which is a plant, and it becomes an animal. And basically everything's just waiting to be elevated into a new source of life. And of course, the highest level is man, particularly Adam, which is a Yid. And so this is the greatest elevation that can take place. You're simple going around eating. It's not a stam thing because you're hungry, right? It's ultimately completing the perfect elevation of all reality that you're taking from the very lowest and you're turning it into the very highest. You transform the energy of a thing. We talk about the birur all the time. We're always talking about refining, elevating things, and it gets a little spiritual. But the fact of the matter is, like hands on the ground, when you eat an apple, you make the apple into a man. It's just a simple fact, right? The apple's no longer in existence. But where did it all go? What happened to that thing? It's inside of you. It becomes you. It's gone. There's no more apple. Go to the bathroom, whatever like the apple had to do there, fine. But the rest of the apple is now you. It's thinking. It's breathing. It's mamish meditating on the greatness of Hashem. That's what happened to that apple. So that's mamish an elevation in the simplest sense. The world became elevated by your eating it. And that happens anytime any creature eats anything, frankly. But the purpose is that it should get to the Yid, because he can turn it into God.
That's why Jews love to eat.
That's why eating is big by Jews, let's face it. What's that?
So in that sense, fasting is like a punishment.
Fasting, yeah, it has its own. What do we say when we fast? We're minimizing our fat and our blood.
Right.
But the idea is that when you say it's a punishment, it all depends. But you're definitely locked into the right way of thinking now. All of a sudden, it's like when you eat and drink for the wrong reasons, let's say, so you're taking you're elevating the world to what? To an avera? It was better off before it got into you. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you can also sort of ruin things. This whole process of you're taking the world and incorporating it into yourself. That's what it says, that it says even a mosquito comes before a man. In other words, the whole sitra achra, which is basically the other side, which creates klippa is not so bad as it turns out. Because klippa is doing the will of Hashem. Right? It was created to be an ox that runs around, just has no clue of its creator and just follows the platform. But you have free choice. You could eat it and, God forbid, do an avera, or you can eat it and B'ezrat Hashem, do a mitzvah. So you can take the thing lower than it was from its basic creation. Right? Because it was created not so bad, and you turned it into something which goes against the will of Hashem. It wasn't created in such a way that it was going against the will of Hashem. It was created in a way that it was doing the will of Hashem to be a klippa. Fine, no problem. Now it's going mamash against Torah mitzvahs because it came into you and you did that with it. So the man is like his finger on the trigger of all reality, basically. You can either bring the whole world around you into a schus or chas v'shalom the opposite.
What is the intro in a nutshell, like a sentence?
Yeah, but that's not a nutshell, man. That's like a huge coconut. You know what I'm saying?
That's like an all you can eat buffet right there.
That's like a reminder to come
all
on
you can eat
time,
buffet,
right
man.
Yeah, we'll have to you listen to the tapes.
Bring your to-go baggie.
It's all on tapes.
For the all you can eat buffet.
All right. I'm sorry. It's just too much to get back into that right this second. Okay, so. Going on, this is the Indian of birur, of the refinement, Shamina Meichel Nasa Adam, and it's called from food becomes man. Big elevation right there. But all of this that we just described, that whole process is during the weekdays. Remember, this hymn of the Arizal is a Shabbos hymn. We only eat it when you're in the midst of a Suda. Shabbos is a different type of eating. So basically, in a nutshell, if you want to say what the mimer is about, go back to our nutshell, is the difference between eating during the weekday and the eating of Shabbos. That's what we're going to be like ultimately understanding when we're done with this. So he says, all that we just described is elevation process. This is eating during the weekday. Aval b'Shabbos, what does it say? Borer aser. What's borer?
Separate.
Right, taking bad from good, basically. You're not allowed to do that on Shabbos. Right? And the idea is that that's exactly what eating we just described is. You eat something, and your body, your liver, quite frankly, separates the bad from the good. That's why it's the first king. It's kind of an important one there. Because it takes what can be generated and put into the body, and it basically kicks out the rest. So it's a process of borer that's taking place right there. And that's just on a human level, but on the basic level, that's what we're doing with the whole world. The world ultimately is klippa. Maybe it's not sinning, it's not like basically doing averas, but it's just klippa. It's not praising God, a blade of grass or an apple or a nutshell, right? It's so when you eat it, you're basically separating the bad from the good. You're turning it into something which is now going to be used in the service of Hashem. So the whole eating process on the weekday is borer, and on Shabbos, borer is also. It's one of the malachas. You're not allowed to separate. So that's like a spiritual concept. You're not allowed to separate because something else happens when you eat on Shabbos, which is a completely different process. Why? The eating is higher. It's a drawing forth from above. As it says, you shall call Shabbos oneg. So in other words, what we're usually saying is that the eating process is a process from below to above. That you're basically taking a lower element and you're making the element come up into a liver, a heart, and ultimately a brain, into a Jew. You're elevating something from below to above. Whereas on Shabbos, we're saying it's the exact opposite is true. The food somehow becomes like a Machpelah upon you. And it gives you something. You don't have to refine the food on Shabbos. The food is going to bring you a certain thing you didn't have before you ate this food. And what is this? It's a tainug. It's like a certain level of godliness that you can't access during the weekday. Now, why does the food change all of a sudden? Like, what's that all about?
Yeah.
Our Shabbos.
Because in general, we say on Shabbos that the realm called Klippas Noga disappears. It's an interesting thing. During the week, there's two levels. There's Klippas Noga and Gimel Klippas Satamez. There's the three impure levels of Klippa, and there's everything else in reality, basically. And unless you do a mitzvah with it, it remains Klippa. If you do a mitzvah, you turn into Kedusha. God forbid Avera, it goes down to the realm of Gimel Klippas. But on Shabbos, there's something called Aliyas HaOlamos, which means just all automatically by itself, the worlds elevate. And what does it mean the worlds elevate? It literally means that Hashem creates the world from a different perspective all of a sudden. In general, there's other Maimarim that discuss this in great length in the Alter Rebbe here, but in general, it says, Sheishis Yamim Asa Hashem Es HaShamayim V'Ha'aretz. 6 days Hashem made, right? And what does it mean the word Asa is used? Sheishis Yamim Asa. So first of all, before we go into it, it doesn't say B'Sheishis Yamim, right? It doesn't say in 6 days, because it's not describing a process that took place for 6 days. It's talking about 6 days. It says Sheishis Yamim Asa. What is 6 days? It's talking about the 6 midos, right? Which create the 6 days of the week. So Sheishis Yamim Asa, Hashem made 6 days. In other words, He didn't make them in, so to speak, in progression. He made them all at one shot. These are the 6 midos which are going to descend and become the 6 days of the week. But what does it say by them? Asa, right? Which is the Indian of Asiya. Indian of Asiya, specifically, it could say Sheishis Yamim Bara, Sheishis Yamim Yatzar. It doesn't say that. It says Sheishis Yamim Asa. And the Indian of Asa is the world of Asiya. Which means when it comes to the 6 days of the week, Hashem created in a version called Asiya. He brought Himself down and contracted Himself into a dimension called Asiya. And what is Asiya? Asiya is a very, very strange thing for Hashem. In general, we always say Hashem creates the world in Dibur, right? Mm-hmm. Baruch sha'amar v'haya olam. Blessed is he who spoke and the world came into being. So when we talk about Sheishes Yamim Asa, we're saying Hashem went out of speech and into action. What's the difference between speech and action in a simple way of looking at it? Thought, speech, and action, right? So thought is something which is inside of a person. It doesn't even come out. It's a garment. We spoke about garments all last week. We understand it's separate. But it's a garment which is mamash attached to the inside of your brain. No one else sees it but you. It's really part of you. So that's called an inner garment. Then you have speech. What is speech? Speech is like an intermediary between an inner and outer garment. Ultimately, it's an outer garment because it comes out of the body and you say it outside of yourself. But, and we're talking about live speech here, not recorded speech. When you say it, it's always right then attached to your body. In other words, it's like light, which is like clinging to its source in a certain sense. You're speaking, and even though it goes out of you, it's in the process of speaking, it's still one with you. You're generating the speech as you go. So even though it's basically exiting, which is represents by Hashem, like sort of a creation of a world, creation of an other outside of Hashem, which is pretty low, but it creates a world in such a way that the world is always connected to Hashem at least, recognizing that it's a world being created from Hashem every second. Because just like speech, it's coming out of you every second. It's attached to the one who's talking. It didn't get lost thinking that it's mamash an object all by itself. So thought, that can never happen because it's pashut inside Hashem. Speech, right? It's outside, but it's connected. And then action is this crazy thing. To even say Hashem as action is actually heretical. So it is. So we say it with a sort of, I don't know, as a metaphor. Thank you. What is action and why is it heretical? Because action, as it says in the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, is like you make a pot and you put it in the shop and it doesn't need its creator anymore. You can take it around the world. It has nothing to do with you, but you can smash it. It doesn't affect the one who made it. Right? It's completely disconnected from him. So to say Hashem made the world is exactly what we don't want to say. It's basically saying that the world is existing independently from its creator. It doesn't need its creator anymore. Just like a pot that you put in the shop, it exists all by itself. That's what it means, action. The power of action of a human being is not like what we just said about speech. You make it, which means you put sort of your creative touch on it. You paint the picture. You put your energy in there and your emotions. But guess what? It's not you anymore. It has nothing to do with you. It's independent. So that's what we're saying by 6 days of the week, Sheishes Yamim Asa, Lashon Asiya, we're saying that during the 6 days of the world is independent from Hashem. Now, Chas v'Shalom, it's not, but it seems like that to us. That's the thing, that's why we say it like, that's why it is heretical if we would really mean it. But we don't mean it. What we mean is that Hashem made such a tzimtzum that even though He's continuously speaking the world and everything's connected to Him at every second, to us it seems like He made it, He stepped away, and we're all by ourselves. That's what happens during the 6 days of the week. That's why we have to go around elevating everything. Because we're Yidden, and we're like, no, it's not separated. And even when I'm going to eat my watermelon, I'm going to make a bracha, you're not separated.
The Torah blatantly says that, though.
The Torah says it in order to, it's not telling a lie, it's telling you your reality. The Torah is telling you how you experience the 6 days of the week. That you are like an asa. You're like an asiya of Hashem. Right? You're made in such a way that Hashem is concealing Himself so much that it looks as though you are independent from Him. The Torah always says the Torah also says Hashem has arms and eyes and stuff. So we know that when the Torah tells us things, we have to understand it the way the sages want us to understand it. And in this capacity, the sage is the Alter Rebbe, who comes in the Tanya and right away and he says, mud covers the eyes of a person who thinks that the world is independent and sitting there by itself doing what it wants, not needing God. So of course we know that it's everything is flowing in from God. The question is then, why does the Torah say, Sheishes Yamim Asa? He made it like in a way of Asiya to tell us that this is the experience that is happening by the creations. We see it as something that we feel independent. There's an atheist going in the world somewhere. There's a wicked person who doesn't think he's being judged. That's why. Because the world seems like it's independent. That's what the Torah is telling us. Yeah.
But the process of action, while the process is happening, it can't be separated from the person who's doing it. Like if I'm moving my hand, there's no one in the room can say that anybody's moving my hand.
That's not the power of action. When you're moving your hand, that's not really the power of action that we're talking about. We're talking about when you move your hand to throw a ball. Now the ball has inside of it a power of action, right? In other words, you're right. There is a certain power of action that's just in the movement of the hand. But what we're talking about as a garment is basically expression of your powers outside of yourself, like making a picture, right? When you're moving your hand, making the picture, fine. But now, why, if you make a picture, it looks different than my picture? Like a lot better, but different? Because you put yourself and your creative talents into the picture, and I put mine. So when someone sees it, they're going to say, oh, that's a Baruch, right? Because you're in there. I'm not in there. They're not going to say it's a Pasternak, right? So that's because you entered some of your being into a canvas, and that's called the Koach HaMaisa, right? So that's what I mean, that it's separated from you. And when they take that Koach HaMaisa and put it somewhere else, it has nothing to do with you anymore. It's like independent. That's why I said it's the same with speech if you have a recorded speech. If I'll record the speech, it becomes a koach that's separated from me altogether. It's now somewhere else. You can do what you want with the speech. It doesn't affect me either. But speaking live is, even though it's a koach, so to speak, it comes out of me, like action comes out of me, but it's still at every second connected with me. Right? That while you're speaking, you can still sort of see the emotion in it and so forth, and it's connected with the speaker.
A great example would be a book, writing a book.
That's
Yeah.
No, but it's also
Because
mindset.
like you could think it, you could speak it, but when you actually start writing a book, like the Rabbi wrote all these books, he might be not living today, but his energy, his intellect lives in all of these books he's written, and there's action. It's like he's still here, he's not here, but his action is literally all those books. You know, it's the end result.
Yeah.
But technically, in the process of speech and action are the same thing. Because, like what you're saying, when you're in the process of action, it's not
let's not
separated
get
from you.
lost
But the end
here.
result is separated, right?
Yeah.
So, like while you're writing a book, it's not separated. But when you have finished the book, we hand it to you. There it is. But I know you're saying that, right? It's the same.
Sfar is the Yud.
Right.
When you speak,
That's the difference
it's not
between
being written
Chochmah
down.
and Malchus
So
is the
it's
difference.
not detached because really, unless you say record it, then it's
Yeah, it is the highest.
speaking that as well.
Let's continue for 1 second because the class is about to be over here.
Can we recap?
And the last point I wanted to make is that that's during the weekday, 6 days of the week. But on Shabbos, it says that Hashem, Elokim specifically, Vayachulu Hashemayim va'aretz, Vayachal Elokim v'yom hashvi, right? Vayachal Elokim means Elokim stopped. Vayachulu Hashemayim va'aretz means they stopped, which means that what Hashem was doing during the 6 days of the week, which was making an Elokim, which equals tzimtzum, a contraction, and hiding himself and going down a level into the world. Vayachal Elokim v'yom hashvi. On the seventh day, he stops with that Elokim. So there's a whole level of contraction which does not happen. And not only one level of contraction doesn't happen, but as it comes out, two. Okay, and this is also indicated in the Kiddush. If you look for a second, or I'll just say it for you because we're going to run out of time. If you look at the Kiddush,
We can go a couple minutes late.
so here you see mamish like a little blueprint of what's taking place spiritually. It says like this. You see, it says like this. It starts off by saying, Vayachal Elokim bayom hashvi. The Elokim stops on the seventh day. Malachto asher asa. Again, all the malach that he was asaing, lashon asiyah, that's what he stopped from. Vayishbos bayom hashvi mikom malachto asher asa, he says again. And then, Kivo Shabbos mikom malachto asher bara Elokim lasos. Right? Then he gets into this inyan where he rests is a second level of aliyah that goes on. Kivo Shabbos mikol malachto asher bara. Right? Which basically means he goes. Why is it now called the creation in the name bara? Where does bara come from? Bria. Right? So that means that he's basically going up into a realm of bria. Bara la'asos. Asher bara la'asos means it was a bara, it was a thought, it was the level of bria, la'asos, to do. In other words, he basically brought down his level of bria into a level of asiyah, but on Shabbos he rests from that, it comes back into a realm of bria, into thought. So what's essentially happening, without going into too much details the last second here, is that on Shabbos, Hashem stops making the world with speech, and for sure action, which is, he never really made it with action, it was just like it just looked like that. He stops making the world with speech, and he starts making the world with thought. So the whole world that you're living in on Shabbos is so fundamentally different than the world you're living on the 6 weeks. You don't really realize it unless maybe you know and you're aware of it. But the world is not grub like it is on the Shabbos. I mean on the weekday. The whole entity of it. Just like we said a second ago that when you eat a piece of food it becomes a man. So we sort of got the idea of elevating something, that it can be, the existence of the thing is going on a higher frequency. Every entity in the world is lacking a couple tzimtzumim that it usually has during a whole week. And it's being energized by a realm of Bria. And the idea is that's why Shabbos is an Indian of basically meditating. Right? On Shabbos we're praying. You're not even supposed to speak on Shabbos. Things that are not shaykh to Shabbos. Right? You have to rest from actions that are not Shabbos-dik, for sure, that's the malachas. You even have to rest from speech that is not Shabbos-dik. It's a mitzvah. You're not allowed to talk about things that are not Shabbos-dik, right? Why is that you are resting? Because Hashem is resting from those things. And therefore, if Hashem is resting from action and speech, what's He not resting from is thought. You're supposed to meditate, basically, about godliness because Hashem has brought the whole world into a new dimension. And therefore, to conclude, there is no such thing as klippas noga on Shabbos. The realm of klippa, which is just basically the externality of the world, feeling separate from Hashem, He takes it away. There's still gimel klippas atameis because He didn't bring the geula yet, and therefore you can still sin. So there's a realm where you can fall out of the Shabbos. There's something called the tchum of Shabbos, right? This is what this means. Why is it that you can only walk so far on Shabbos and you have to stop? Because it's a physical metaphor for a spiritual concept that Shabbos sort of energy, you're in it, but you can fall out of it. Right? If you do an Avera, then even though Hashem is elevating the world to the level of Bri, you can sort of shatter it and bring yourself outside and into a low place. So there's an edge to the Shabbos, but inside of there, Shabbos is on. So long as you don't sin, you don't have to refine things anymore. Your job is not to go take the food and turn it into a higher form of life, because Hashem is enlivening it to begin with from a very, very high place. From a Shabbos realm. And so therefore, on the contrary, the whole eating process is afuch, it's different. We go and run to eat. Not because we're sort of refining things, because the food gives us godliness. When you're eating food on Shabbos, you're not refining it like you are during the weekday. You're drawing elokus from it. V'karasa Shabbos oneg, you're calling Shabbos pleasure. You're drawing from the level of oneg ha'elyon that's sitting down in the world around you that you're able to bring into you. Yeah.
So from this, the rest of the week, you should be eating less, technically speaking. Eating differently. I mean, let's put it like this. I mean, when it comes to less and more, it depends on the size of your body, and so to speak. I mean, I don't want to get into that. But eating differently. In other words, you're not eating for pleasure. Put it like that. Like I said, our friend, if you want to eat six barrels of lettuce, I'm not going to stop you. Whatever, you can eat a lot. But the point is that you're eating for different reasons. You're not eating because the food itself is good. You're eating because there's good in the food that you have to get out of the food. That only works if you're saying a bracha.
That's how I was thinking.
So there's several things. Even if you say a bracha, you can eat right? So okay, but I'm just saying, your Indian is that your purpose is that it's not true, by the way. If you don't say a bracha, you could do tshuva. In other words, the energy that you have, you're right, you should say a bracha. But I'm just saying 100%, I mean, obviously. But all I'm saying is that the concept doesn't change, that you're taking the energy of the food, and if you're elevating the food, you're doing the food a favor.
So what actually elevates it? By saying a bracha or by eating it?
By eating it. The elevation of the bracha is basically you're connecting with the ceremony of Hashem. You're drawing. What makes you be able to elevate it and not draw it down? Put it like that. Because if a cow eats it, fine, it goes to a cow. But if a human eats it and does a avera with it, he drops it down lower than it was before. So the Rabbanan added the brachas in order to ensure that you're going to eat properly. Which means that the second you eat it, if you didn't say a bracha, you already mama's dropped it down a level. You didn't elevate it. You have to go do tshuva and bring it back. Right? Because the energy that you put in your body is an automatic elevation. It went from plant life to human life. But if you do a human life avera, so you dropped it down a level, you didn't raise it up a level. So by saying a bracha, it's so to speak, an automatic indicator to you that you're elevating this thing into a godly man, not dropping it down into an ungodly man. You understand?
Why do you say brachas on Shabbos then? It's already elevated.
It's a different Indian of a bracha. The bracha can do something else. You're not doing a bracha to elevate the food.
Right.
You're doing a bracha to sort of draw down the food into you. Like a bracha can also mean to draw down, right? Okay, it's an interesting concept, the bracha, but that's the idea. So therefore, on Shabbos, when the food itself is it's like higher than man. That part we didn't explain yet. But therefore, when you eat it, you draw it into you, and you get something out of it. Therefore, it's a mitzvah to have tainug from it, because it's really a godly tainug. It's not a food tainug that you're having. It's a godly tainug, because the food itself is elokus, clear. All right, we'll get more into it tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. You want to ask a question?
Why do we say like tzaddik and ham? When a tzaddik says the bracha, so he's elevating the food. When a Jew says the bracha, he's just hungry.
When a tzaddik,
Yeah, you know, like people always.
I never heard that.
no, because it has to do with kavanah. In other words, it has to do with
Famous
kavanah.
story.
In other words, you're eating. The reason is because the Rebbe doesn't want food at all. Right? A tzaddik doesn't want food at all. He's not interested in eating and drinking for its own sake. He's only interested
in the body to a certain extent.
So that's called serving God. In other words, he's only eating to serve God. He's eating. There's no physical interest. A real tzaddik gomer I'm talking about, right?
Okay, so maybe for me it's easier to eat more than learning, a book. So therefore, I'll just be eating more, elevating more food. Let's say.
No, what I'm trying to say, there's no personal interest for the tzaddik to eat. His whole inyan is love, fear, and faith. That's like what he is. He doesn't have a self.
Okay, so by you, the kavanah is wrong, but you end up with the same.
No, but you have a self. You have a self. So the part of you which is eating for yourself is basically doing an avera, even when you're eating with a bracha, right? He's basically he wants to make a bracha, and he needs food in order to do it. But you can't make a bracha on eating air. So his inyan is that he wants
the world in a different way.
His instinct that he wants to make. No, he has to eat. It's a mitzvah to stay alive by eating. So he has to eat, and he doesn't want to eat. He doesn't need the pleasure in the food and all. You know, the author would salt his food to the point that it tasted horrible. There was no taste involved. It was just an inyan of sustaining the body and the ability to make a bracha. So for you and I, it's not like that. We're interested in the food. We have a certain major interest, and in fact, we have to sort of remind ourselves that we're eating this to serve Hashem. We're eating it to serve ourselves. There's a corruption in the very nature of what we're doing by eating. That's why we're making a bracha to sort of be able to eat the food. He's making a bracha lechatchila because he wants to make a bracha and he needs food in order to make a bracha on it.
We both end up in the same place. You elevated the food and he elevated the food.
No, you
elevated. Kavanah was right, your kavanah was wrong.
No, you didn't elevate the food because half the time you're thinking about yourself, and therefore that food is going into an avera. Any second you're not doing machshava, dibur, maisa, and even on a deeper level your emotions of Torah and mitzvahs, you're doing an avera.
If you go to learn right after that, and that chayes goes for learning, you just elevated the food.
And your learning is like
even though you enjoyed a huge steak 10 minutes before that.
You elevated. No, the second first one that you're enjoying the huge steak, right there you're doing an avera. There's no Indian for you to enjoy your food on a weekday. There's no
It's not an avera.
It is an avera.
And then everyone's doing averas every day.
For sure they are. How do you think they're not? We have yeshus, we have a mamash yeshus. I mean,
for sure.
If you were a Beinoni, you wouldn't be eating foods that were delicious to you.
If you would want to make an avera, you wouldn't say a bracha lechatchila on it.
No, you're not trying to make it a avera. You can call it shogeg because you're an animal, but you're still doing. You're not mamash serving. The second you're like gevald, I love a meat.
No, if you look at lechatchila, no, right? That you're eating this in order to stay alive, which is a mitzvah. But you're enjoying it.
But are you thinking that every second? That's why you're eating it.
When you're learning shadol ma'amer, you really enjoy it. Are you making avera?
That's different. You're having
no, it's
completely different. You're having like a tainug eloki. Right?
Because it's a physical thing.
Because it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah, not a mitzvah to eat.
You just said it's a mitzvah to stay alive.
Yeah, it's not a mitzvah to eat. Except for on Shabbos. It's a mitzvah to eat. You have no mitzvah to eat during the weekday.
Is there a mitzvah to have tainug l'limud haTorah?
There is actually. In other words, when it comes to limud haTorah, when it comes to doing a mitzvah, you have to simcha shel mitzvah, tainug shel mitzvah.
What's your question?
It's a completely different thing.
How the words work? What?
No, it's
How
not.
the words
it's not
work?
A mitzvah. It's for you.
I have a
it's
good
it's
question.
an animalistic taiva. Right? So the more pleasure
you're doing it for the right cause.
No, you're not. The second you're having taiva for a physical thing, it's already not the right cause. You want to say that
you're staying alive.
What you're saying is that but you're not eating to stay alive. If you were, you'd be eating lettuce. Okay, you're not. You're eating for taiva. Why are you eating cake? Why are you eating?
Because
they're good. Because
you want to elevate the
Okay,
called
that's
him a cake
BS.
eater.
That's not what you're eating.
He said, why are you eating so much
Theoretically, you should
cake?
be eating.
Right, shouldn't be
Listen,
tomorrow.
you-
Don't have to do.
Eli, don't start with
Don't
this,
fool
okay?
yourself at the same time.
Oh.
You're eating like that because you're on a low level and you're doing your best.
Yeah.
Don't pretend that you're doing a mitzvah by getting it.
You know,
I'm saying you're doing a
I
mitzvah without
like
even
discussion
You're not.
because it's trying to figure out like what is right versus an argument. It's trying to figure out like who's right.
And they're
I
different.
really just figure out who what is
An
right.
animal eats grass. The opinion of him eating the grass is that the grass becomes an animal, it's elevated. When a human being eats grass, it doesn't happen like that. We have mechira chavshis, which means you can eat the grass.
I was gonna
without-
have
you
time
can
for
eat
the
grass
question, but
yourself.
now I don't.
When you're eating the grass for yourself,
Yeah,
yes,
that's Rabbi
you're
Goldstein.
elevating it from the grass kingdom to the human kingdom. But then comes along and not serving
It's a lower level of God's will.
No, it's much lower. It's lower than the grass was when it started. Because when the grass started,
We won't.
Mashiach now.
when the grass started, it was just doing its thing, being grass just like Hashem wanted it. Now, the grass is part of a Jew who's slopped up in his typhus. Which, what did you do that for? The grass needed that in his life? Is now going to be judged for that? Like, is it you've taken this matter and you've turned it into something which is angering God? It didn't anger God when it was if you eat for your own sake, okay, maybe no one's judging you, and it's okay, you're in a low generation. Be okay with yourself. I'm not coming here to like give muster. I'm coming to explain the concept.
So what I'm saying is, you're telling me that practically speaking, God rather have you dead than eat the grass for not doing the right thing.
It says in the Mamash they voted in the Gemara. They said it's better to have been born. They all voted not.
That's all the rules.
The Chachmei Gemara. Gemara. Yes, being alive is
You don't have to go
It doesn't have to do with anything. Are you in the middle of having pikuach nefesh?
Well, if you don't eat it, I mean, eventually at a certain point, if you keep it like not
I don't understand what you're saying. The point is, would God rather have you alive doing Averas or not alive, not doing Averas? Not alive, not doing Averas. He gives you a chance to be here so you can not do Averas. But the truth is we all stumble and fall. It would be almost better to not be born, he said. Because it's a very difficult, narrow, it's a gesher tzar ma'od over here. But for sure you're going to make it worse for yourself if you're what we call a kosher
Make also sukkah.
right? Thank you. Double dark, as Rabbi says. Not only is it dark, but you think it's light. And let me explain myself. A person goes around knowing that they're not eating the same shemayim. It's mamish not a good situation. You know you're in gullus. Like you basically. But if you're going to now try to convince yourself that you're not eating the same shemayim is a good thing, it's a double darkness. Like I'm trying to just take you out of at least one state of darkness that you don't need to be in, which is to lie to yourself. To think that you're going to sit there and like dive into a piece of whatever, a cake, and that it's mamish a service to Hashem. Because it's not. Just because you're taking the food from cake to human, you're doing a huge injustice to the food by having this food now be a yid who's mamish slopping away over the side. You see what I'm saying? So, okay, do it. I mean, I'm doing it. It's not the end of the world in terms of we're working on ourselves. But and on a philosophical level, chas v'shalom, to convince ourselves that that's a good thing, we shouldn't do that. For
people
sure.
who actually eat healthy just to stay alive.
That's good. No, that's what you got to
But
do.
they're doing it for the wrong reason.
Oh, so that's true also. Like this whole like health craze that you're gonna be like, you're gonna make like a vegan cheesecake. You know what I'm saying? Where there's not any cheese, there's not any cake, but it's mamish a taiva.
It's made out of vegetables.
Same thing. It has not, maybe it's a little bit better because you're not mamish hurting yourself. But in terms
like you're only doing
in terms
it for
of
the
the
sake of-
taiva, it's the same.
Then what is it?
And it could be worse because you're fooling yourself again. Because you're saying like, I'm not into taivas, and basically you are just on like a more refined level. This guy has a taiva for fine wines. This guy has a taiva for who knows what. But it's still a taiva.
Then explain, how do you elevate that to smoking? There's no even bracha for it.
You can't.
The Rebbeim smoked them.
No, they stopped.
All of them?
Yeah.
What?
The Rebbe stopped.
The Rebbe, I'm saying, what about the Bolsentiv, the altar?
No, so in those days you could not only, you could elevate it. By today already.
There's no even bracha to say on it, and you're getting hana from it.
All I'm saying is that there was an Indian of smoking. There was an Indian of smoking once upon a time that it's like Torres. It has like a certain. It's like makes a good smell. You know, reach nichoach. What? That's what it was, and it's like the angels.
Have a good smell?
The angels enjoyed it.
Not
and so
tobacco.
forth. Whatever, yes, smoke, like the smoke of a plant, the whole idea. What is it? The incense, of course. Tourists, when you burn
They
plants.
say even the incense that was in the base of Mikdash didn't smell so good.
That's not true. It had one element that didn't smell good, but the whole thing did smell good.
and it smelled unbelievably good. It was like it was like a divine odor. But no, so when you burn something, it gives off a certain. When you burn plants, it gives off like a pleasing odor, more or less. Huh? To you, but maybe to God they do. How do you know? Burning flesh of an animal smells good to God.
There's not even bracha to elevate that. How are you going to elevate it?
The bracha on a again, a bracha is not the elevator, right?
It's kind just of your weight. How do you, everything today we want to elevate, we have to
listen,
make a bracha.
Listen, you're talking about elevating smoking. I'm agreeing with you. You're not elevating it because basically the Rabbi already said don't do it. So he's basically saying it's not part of
the summon. We have a smell when we want to smell something.
Okay.
So I'm saying you're not even taking anything in here. Here you're actually getting taste and I don't know. And the Rabbi did it, and like I'm saying, it says the Rebbe always ate chocolate. I'm sure the Rebbe could survive. If he could survive without food, he could survive just without chocolate.
No, you can't judge the Rebbe the same way at all. Because as I said, he's not eating chocolate for taiva.
So what's he eating chocolate for?
You think he's eating chocolate for taiva?
No, I know he's not. So I'm saying,
whatever. It has a certain chocolate has like a medicine in a lot of ways. What you think it's not? So you think he's eating it for taiva?
I don't know. I'm not saying anything.
You're not saying things that are right. That's what I'm saying. He's clearly not eating chocolate for taiva. Okay, we have some food professionals over here. Chocolate is mamish an unbelievable healing food.
Well, that's the thing with everything.
No, it has.
God created the world that everything could be used for good or for bad. All depends on how much you.
But I'm saying, but chocolate. When you're asking why you ate chocolate, is a very special. They call it a superfood. It's like certain foods that have like unbelievable healing powers and like medicinal powers. Chocolate is one of them. People have it's delicious, so people put sugar in it and have a taiva with it. But the Indian of like a cocoa bean. They used to say that people could go and like fight wars for like 3 days straight by eating a cocoa bean. It's a powerful food. The Rebbe was eating it because of its power as a part of the earth to give human beings power. So you're talking about a different thing. And smoking was a similar thing, I believe. There's a certain ruchniistic thing. It says that the malachim liked it. I mean, they knew what they were doing. They were pulling strings in this world that were connected to the higher worlds. There was no negative connotations to it until our generation. People didn't either know, or maybe it didn't even have the same effects. What they put in it was different. Like you're smoking chemicals.
You're saying it was all b'kavana. That's where it stopped. You're saying.
For sure, the Rebbe stopped it. There was
you're saying back then when they did smoke it, it all depended on b'kavana.
No, the Bolshevik was just going after his taivas. Think for a second. Of course it was b'kavana.
I get what you're saying.
Okay, of course it was b'kavana.
And if someone else would have smoked it, it wouldn't have elevated it.
If the Baal Shem Tov already was smoking, let's say publicly, which was already a symbol that like it's something shaykh to the Rabbim, then Mastama they could also tap into the same elevations if they were doing it l'shem shamayim. You could do things l'shem shamayim. You could smoking for sure.
You could live without smoking. You know what I'm saying?
You could live without meat also.
That's what I'm saying.
But there's a certain Indian that you can elevate things if you do it for the right reason. Ada chlina bas the Torah. It says until I ate the meat of an ox, I didn't have the same strength. You get more power when you eat more intense foods. If you're going to do it l'shem shamayim, no problem. You're good. You have to only do it l'shem shamayim. So it says in the Gemara, Am ha'aretz should not eat meat ever. Not even Shabbos. Yeah. No, Am ha'aretz doesn't have the ability. Whatever. I'm just saying. That's what it says in the Gemara. For this reason. In other words, if you can take the food, whereas the Talmidei Chachamim, they can eat meat for breakfast, it says. Because they're going to use the meat for mamish power in it, like the chocolate. There's nothing wrong per se with the powers inside of these foods. It's just a matter of what you're doing it for. So I was saying, it comes back to you and me. Yes, if you want to eat chocolate cake because it's mamish going to give you a certain rush that you need to learn this Tosafos right now, kind of a different story. But that's between you and me, not why we're eating chocolate cake. So in other words, don't pretend that we're in the process of elevating the food. We have to sort of go through a whole process of tshuva every time we eat something, even if it's kosher, that's not l'shem shamayim, until we can finally use that energy for the right reasons. Because at the time we're getting energy from it, it's an energy which is feeding our taivas. There's also a moment of energy of taiva and enjoyment in stam, our goof, gashmi. And that's not what we were created for.
What about the opposite way around? The people that don't eat certain foods because they don't like them, they're also not like kilo.
If they don't like them, it's like it's disgusting to them. Okay, I mean
kilo also not elevating.
Theoretically, but I mean you don't have to elevate every single thing. I mean But you have to keep yourself alive. You don't have to go around eating every single thing you see.
These people, they're like, they're just vegetarians or just this, gluten, that.
There could be, there's definitely there could be a big clip in there.
Just doing it for a health reason.
There could be, I'm not saying it's klipa, but like I said,
It can work both ways, probably.
yeah, but there's a lot of things that go behind it. L'chatchila, why aren't you eating meat? If you're doing it because it's cruel to animals, you're already mamash off the track. And exactly, that's not a good reason not to do it. You're sort of fooling yourself. If you're doing it because you don't trust the kashrus of it, okay, there's different things. If you're doing it because you don't like it, that's also important. Because the fact that you like something or don't like something is like Hashem's directing you to elevate certain things and not other things.
Okay.
So it's not also bad if a person's not drawn to those things.
You're supposed to like it, you're not supposed to like it.
What is the reason why it's wrong to not eat meat if you feel it's cruel to animals?
Because it's not cruel to animals, right? To eat meat, okay, maybe the way they treat the animals could be cruel to animals.
That's another issue.
It's another issue, but to stop eating meat and killing an animal to eat it is period not cruel. You could think it's cruel, but that's because you don't understand the ultimate mind of God, who told us in the Torah that it's not cruel.
My sister-in-law.
So if really they like meat, and if really theoretically they could learn Torah with the power of meat, especially on Shabbos, and they're not going to eat it for a reason which is not Torah-dic, there's a certain.
They feel it's cruel to the bees to steal their honey.
Well, there you go.
I'm not kidding.
I hear you. But they would be right. The Rambam goes into a whole explanation why the whole idea of attributing human traits to the animal kingdom is just completely off base. In other words, even it says clearly, the Rambam says, shooing away the mother bird before you take its eggs, it's dafka not because you're being merciful, because they don't understand mercy. There's no such thing as mercy in a human mercy, so to speak, in the animal
the
realm.
mother bird's not like, oh, thank God he flew me away so I didn't have to watch it.
We don't understand it because all we can do is think the way we think. So we would just like we're dealing with the non-Jews, lahavdil, when it comes to Eretz Yisrael. We want to make peace with them in the way that we want to make peace with ourselves. We don't realize that there's something else going on, that they're not thinking the way we're thinking. There's a different drive, there's a different motivation that we just don't put on them because we think egocentrically that everything is like we think.
Even vegetables, you're cutting it off source.
Yeah, there's people like that. Breatharians. He's going that way. It's pretty close. It's a journey. We missed you.